Hi, I'm Brady Stewart. I'm the CEO of Bay FC, and I've just come off stage from my session at Leaders Week, the investment hour. We had a lot of fun up there, and I hope you enjoy watching it.
Thank you for joining us for the second half of the investment hour. I'm going to let Brady and Russell introduce themselves, plus also maybe give a bit of scene setter, because we know football really well in this country. But from an NWSL point of view and Bay FC being a franchise, just explain a bit of that. So Russell, if you could maybe just introduce yourself and give us a bit of an overview to 6th Street.
Sure, good afternoon, good to see you all. Russell Wolff, I'm new to 6th Street. I joined in January after a mere 26 years at ESPN, where most of the time I led ESPN International, and then for the last 5 years I led ESPN Plus. And sort of the joke in our house is that, you know, Russell's playing in the same sandbox but with a different shovel than I've been playing with for the last 26 years. And so it's been great to join the team. I did it after being a senior advisor to them for about 6 months. When you think about 6th Street, and you heard a little bit about it from Colin and Joe, think about us as, you know, almost $80 billion private investment firm. And when asked if we're private equity or private credit, we're not private equity or private credit. We're private equity and private credit and everything in the middle. And so we're capable of playing across the balance sheet and can really do both, you know, debt and equity, even in the same transaction. And it's a multi-sector firm, so everything from agriculture and energy and healthcare, real estate, all the way to sports, media, entertainment, which we'll get into today. Office here in London, headquartered in San Francisco with a big office in New York, and I share my time between New York and San Francisco.
Brady, I think I've just thrown my mic on the floor.
I think you did, yes. Whoa, I'm
Brady,
really
if you
loud.
could touch on NWSL and Bay FC.
Yeah, absolutely. So the NWSL is the Professional Women's Football League in the U.S. We have 14 teams now, 2 of which are expansion teams, one of which is Bay FC. I understand the concept of expansion team in football is relatively new to some of our audience, and so what it means really is a newly created team or franchise joining a league. Bay FC is joining this year, so we're actually at the tail end of our inaugural season, which is an incredible honor, frankly, to be part of leading a team, leading an organization through its first year of existence. I think a couple notes on the NWSL just to educate everyone. Oh, thank you. All right. I might take it off.
Is it on? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Oh, sorry. Okay, so much better. All right. So a couple notes about the NWSL that make it a little bit unique. It is a closed league, so no relegation. Also a salary cap league, so we all within the league play at the same level. One change, we just renegotiated our collective bargaining agreement, and we no longer have a draft, which we used to have for building teams, and now we have free agency, which brings our league in line with the rest of the world.
And that may be, that's very loud. If you could tell us how this came about. How did 6th Street and Bay FC form a partnership?
All right, so Bay FC was founded by 4 former U.S. national team players, Brandi Chastain, Aly Wagner, Leslie Osborne, and Danielle Slaton. And they saw a need for a women's professional soccer team in the Bay Area. The Bay Area is one of the hotbeds of football in the U.S., and we knew that we would have out of the gates a really excited and engaged fan base. But that group needed capital, and so had been out talking with potential investors across the Bay Area, and were connected with 6th Street, and the rest is history. So Russell, I'm sure you want to build on that.
Yeah, it sort of predates me, but you know, when Alan Waxman, our CEO and founder, met the folks from Bay FC who were trying to pull something off, you know, we're coming off the back of a 2021 investment in Legends, where we became the, you know, majority and controlling shareholder of Legends, which was originally started by the Cowboys and the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys, and expanded well beyond that when the owners decided that they were ready to sell and bring in someone else. And so we've gotten our foot in the door in sports, and on the heels of that, 6th Street had then supported Real Madrid in renovating the Bernabeu, FC Barcelona with their media rights deal, and then 20% of the San Antonio Spurs. And so we'd got the sports business up and running at 6th Street, and here in our backyard, there was a moment in time to look into the Bay Area and say, this is the moment. And of course, it wasn't a moment, it's actually a movement. And it's quite exciting when you think about the size of the Bay Area and the fact that I think 9 of the 26 women on the U.S. national team have a connection to the Bay Area. Either they went to school there or they grew up there. You know, it's a real hotbed for soccer, for football. And, you know, the firm quickly got their heads around this could be really interesting. But don't think of 6th Street as a private equity firm that bought a women's soccer team. You have to think about 6th Street as a private investment firm that bought the right to help build a women's soccer team literally from scratch. And when Brady came on, and she'll tell you the story of what building a women's soccer team from scratch in a really short time frame, you know, sounds like, because that's what the team's achieved, and the thing's been around for less than a season. So I'll let you tell that story.
I'm going to tee you up on that, Brady, because I think for everyone's awareness, when Bay FC, before they'd even kicked a ball, they'd set an NWSL corporate sponsorship record, a world record transfer fee when they signed Rachel Kundanaji from Real Madrid for £685,000. They sold out their season tickets, their 10,000 season ticket allocation, and they also sold out their opening game at PayPal Park with 18,000 capacity before they'd kicked a ball. So I think, Brady, when we were talking earlier, and I was getting a bit of anxiety actually as you told me about the fact that you were employee number 1 in June last year, and you had to take to the field in March. Can you somehow condense that 9 months and take us through that timeline? Because that is phenomenal to achieve all of that without even having a player on your roster.
Yeah, it was so thrilling and exciting. I think this is where having a partner like 6th Street really made it a lot more possible than it would otherwise would have been. I mean, just as context, most teams starting in the NWSL have a lead time of 18 to 24 months. So we needed to do it all soup to nuts in 9 months. And normally when you're doing something really fast, the goal is not, oh, we're going to do this in an absolutely world-class way. It's like, hey, let's get it done. It's scrappy. That's okay. But that was not our mentality. We said we're going to do it the fastest and the best that's ever been done. And I think we accomplished that, but we did have a ton of help from 6th Street, right? We had a partner who understands the capital needs of growing a sports team and understands that you need world-class people at the table. And so the team that we have attracted and built is truly world-class. We have people from the Warriors, from the 49ers, actually coming over from the game in Europe and helping us to build towards our aspiration, which is to be a global sports franchise, nothing less.
And how did having 6th Street with you add or remove some of that pressure of building that franchise?
Well, I think, you know, given the breadth of 6th Street investments and in all real leading franchises, we knew that they knew what it took to build a franchise. And so they could be our advisors, they could be our support and our sounding board. And so I don't think we could have done it in the time we did without them.
I'm also maybe curious if you could both talk about your backgrounds and what brought you both to Bay and 6th Street. And then, Russell, if you could build on that, because I know your background, as to the challenges, but also the opportunity of the visibility of women's sport and your expertise that you bring to that with Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I was trying to decide what to do after a lifetime at ESPN, what attracted me to 6th Street at the time was a concept my wife and I talked about, which was whatever I did next, I wanted it to be multi-sport and global. And thinking about the kinds of things that fit through that filter, talking to a number of private investment firms, 6th Street really stood out, both for what they had already done, where each of the investments was uniquely different. Some of them were private credit style deals, some of them were private equity style deals, some of them were, quite distant from the property, and some of them were quite involved day to day with the property. And so I think, and it predates my arrival, but when you look at how 6th Street wrapped their arms around Bay FC from the minute they won the franchise to today, whether it was the insurance team helping on the insurance side or the real estate team helping on, the real estate negotiations that had to happen, including Brady needed an office, Brady needed a stadium to play in, Brady needed a practice facility. Like, all of these things had to happen, and there was expertise in pockets around the firm. And I think, what Brady said is right, which is we're not just trying to build a team, we're trying to build a global sports franchise and try to build the best women's football team in the world and make the NWSL the best women's football league in the world. And that's, aspirational, as I think anybody's mission statement should be in any business you're in. And I think we all push ourselves, in the very short amount of time we've been around, to do that kind of work at that level.
And specific, sorry, just to your, because actually there's a question from within the audience, specific to your time at ESPN, what have you been able to bring from that to Bay FC in building that TV product, content, storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of, some very specific things. FC Barcelona comes to play Bay FC in a friendly, and I'm helping work with my friends at ESPN to get that on ESPN Plus, working with the broadcast team, working with the league. One of the things we always talked about at ESPN, and I think it's really important when you're sitting in an ownership position in a league, is we all compete on the field. But we better be business partners in the boardroom of the league, because that's how you grow a business. And I think the American leagues are particularly good at that. And we're striving to have the NWSL be that strong as a group of owners who have unified vision. They know where they're going. I mean, I think the NFL is a great example of that. The MLS has evolved to be a great example of that. And I know Don's here somewhere. You literally, you want the people who are deciding how much to invest and when to invest and what to invest in to be aligned. And we're excited about the continued growth and the alignment around the NWSL.
And Brady, I'm going to also build on a question here on your background of what did you bring from your time at Levi's to Bay?
Yeah, so I don't have a sports background. I spent some time in the beginning of my career in investment banking, management consulting, and then the majority of my career I was in apparel and cosmetics. But there is an absolute direct translation into sports, and that is really, we are creating an experience. We're building a brand, we're cultivating fanship, we are cultivating kind of lifelong loyalty and affinity. And that's what you're doing in sports. You get to do it in some more fun venues than maybe a store, but it's really the same thing. And that's the whole mentality that we're bringing to Bay FC.
And we're seeing some photos behind you, and it's quite good questions come up around youth and grassroots and community and what that's played into you building Bay. And I'll just mention a story that my friend in San Francisco, her little girl plays in a team in Dublin, and she's actually in the promo materials for Bay FC. Yeah. So she, I can see firsthand how much that builds. So why? I guess two questions. One is, how have you tapped into the community piece? And then secondly, how do you plan to balance building a performance product on the pitch with a brand product off the pitch?
Yeah, so look, we are a team fundamentally founded by players, and so we are player-centric in everything that we do. And that is the way that we treat our players. It speaks to the fact that our first large capital project is building a world-class training facility for the team. It also is, we are investing in our team. It's things like the transfer price that we paid for Rachel Kundinaji, but we are trying to build a unique brand of football, at least in the US. It might look more similar to what you see here in the UK, or even what you might see in Spain. We are trying to really build out the beautiful game in the NWSL, and that is core to what we do every day as an organization. However, if our players are at the center, our community is our next important group of fans and constituents that we think about and we prioritize. So We are very engaged in our community already. We are trying to build that presence even more. And from our perspective, we want to leave the Bay Area a better place than it was before Bay FC was founded. And a lot of that is making sure that our fans in the community can see who we are and see themselves reflected in that. And you notice I didn't just say young women, right? Our fans are everyone. Our fans are young boys, young girls, families, singles, whoever you are, come enjoy this great game and come enjoy the great experience we're putting on in our stadium. I would also say that some of our community marketing efforts were a little bit born of necessity. Like necessity is the mother of invention, right? So your friend who was in some of our early marketing materials, it was because we didn't even have any players yet. So how do you market a team with no players? Well, you get members of the community to come and play soccer and talk about how excited they are for Bay FC. So we had to be a little scrappy in the beginning as we were launching.
Russell, on that note of the fact that there were no players, so actually Brady and the team had to build a product that didn't exist yet. What is it 6th Street saw, and what was that vision when actually it didn't even exist on the pitch or in the community yet?
Yeah, I'll answer that, but let me just reinforce what Brady said, because many of you have launched television networks and brands and teams. Imagine literally trying to talk to fans about a team where the thing that ultimately becomes most important is who the stars are and how fans connect with the stars, and to sell out season ticket targets without actually even having a player to talk about. And so, that was as much about the big B, the brand, the feeling of the Bay, and the founding four, who really have a presence in America football, but also in the Bay Area, and lean on the things you had. And I can't imagine how good the second season is going to feel, given what we did, in that first season. I think what we saw was the ability to make a investment, one of the biggest investments ever in women's sports, at a moment where the league was ascendant, where we believed in the marketplace. And by the way, sometimes to believe in a marketplace, you need to understand it deeply, and sometimes to understand it deeply, being there helps, and we're not going to be in the backyard of everything we invest in. We're not in Madrid and we're not in Barcelona, but we understood those brands and businesses deeply. But the heritage of the firm being in the Bay Area led to incremental belief that the money was there, the support was there, and to get brands to come on. You've seen Alan Waxman and others in our organization talk about the importance of the support of sponsors for women's sport, and in our world, to get them on board with Bay FC and the NWSL. And you're seeing brands come on, whether it's Sutter Health as our primary sponsor or others. We're seeing that happen. And so it was our belief that all of those things were aligned. When people say, what's the thesis at 6th Street? I said, I'm new. You shouldn't take investing advice from a television guy, but and I'm new to this. But the thesis is very simple: make good investments. We have themes. One of the themes is women's sports, but in this particular case, we thought that it had really good tailwinds in a number of areas that we were excited about: women's sport, soccer in general in America, the NWSL, the Bay Area. And you looked at all of those things, and we looked at the size of the investment, and we felt really good about it. And I think if you just look at what's happened since we've come in, we feel even better about it now than we did when we made the first investment.
And you talked about sponsorship there, and question here of, can we hear more around the commercial success? How are you stimulating commercial partnerships and investment outside of the investment support from 6th Street?
Yeah, absolutely. So commercially, we are off to a very strong start. You can think about the business, this, in 3 chunks: commercial sponsors, ticket sales, and merch. I will say, from a merchandising perspective, we're already #1 in the league. We see our great merch, our great branding. It's really resonating with our fans. So doing very well on merch. From a sponsorships perspective, we've been very lucky. We've been embraced by the Bay Area business community, which is one of the largest and I think most engaged business communities in the world. And so we have Sutter Health as our kit sponsor. We have Visa that have come in a founding partner. We have PNC Bank, which is a founding partner. We have Invisalign. I can keep going. But I think what's important about each of these deals is these brands are coming in with substantial investment, not kind of
giving us a women's sports discount, but saying this is a great franchise that we want to be a part of. And they're coming in as real strategic partners for us with aligned values, and the values that we're working on together with our sponsorship is really all about, number one, improving our players' lives. So Visa has been a huge partner in that for us. And number two, activating in the community. So we put on clinics where our players come and teach skills and life skills to members of the community. We are really building out that base with our corporate partners. So it's not just about, hey, this is a money and a board in the stadium. This is really about building a meaningful multi-year strategic partnership. So that's sponsorships. And then on the ticketing side, we've just been so lucky. The fans in the Bay Area want the team, and then we take that responsibility to say, hey, we're going to build an absolutely world-class in-game experience so that you want to keep coming back, and you want to come back with your neighbors, and you want to buy season tickets, and you really want to be a part of the Bay FC community, and that's the obligation that we feel on the business side every day. And so far, it has been resonating with our fans, and we are excited to keep it going.
I think you're being very humble. You make your own luck. Another question here of, do you see any opportunities for growth in fan base or revenue with the loss of the Oakland A's? But I'm going to build on that. Also, we talked about the WNBA franchise coming into the market as well with the Valkyries. Yep. So just, it's a super sporty area. Yeah. What are the opportunities, but sometimes challenges around that?
Well, so I mean, look, we think, we're biased, we think the Bay Area is one of the best sports markets in the world because we have world-class sports franchises already, and we have fans who love sports. So we're very lucky in that regard. We are also lucky, we have another women's professional sports teams coming to the Bay Area, the Valkyries. They're the WNBA team associated with the Warriors. Jess Smith, their president, is at this conference, and we're thrilled to partner with her. The Valkyries come to our games. We're planning on coming to their games. Look, overall, we often get asked the question, like, oh no, is your success at risk because the Valkyries are coming? As though there's only room for one women's sports team. I don't think anyone would ask the 49ers if they feel threatened by the Warriors. No, we're happy, right? We want to build a robust and rich sports community, and so the more teams, the better. And frankly, in my opinion, the more people cheering for female athletes, the better.
Russell, your view on that?
Slight diversion. I mean, we're sitting here with 2 regular season games left. Yeah. Sitting in 8th place. The top 8 teams will make the playoffs, and there's a playoff structure in the NWSL. And the idea that we could be going into postseason play in the first season, again, reminding ourselves that in January we didn't know who was on the team, makes us feel quite good about the conversations that we get to have, or that Brady and the team get to have with sponsors and partners and the community, right? And so we're really excited about what comes next. And by the way, just imagine that one day we'll come here and play a match here, and we would invite all of you when you're in the Bay Area to come by and check out one of these matches. I mean, the fan experience, and having traveled around the world to, cricket and rugby and soccer and Formula One and all that, the fan experience at PayPal Park, where we share the building with the owners who are the Major League Soccer, San Jose Earthquakes, is amazing. I mean, you got a whole section of lawn with food trucks where people are coming with their kids and enjoying the evening out. And so the experience, as Brady talks about, is really exceptional. And I think that's what attracts partners to want to be part of it, because it's not like everything else, and it's really special. I know that there was a picture before of a big orange rectangle on the screen, which is the practice facility that Brady talked about. We've announced 2 weeks ago that we're going to build this practice facility on Treasure Island, which is just off the Bay Bridge in the San Francisco Bay. And it'll be one of the most iconic spots to put a practice facility, which we think will continue to add value to the brand. I mean, the Bay Area is like saying, I don't know the exact, I'm a New Yorker, so forgive me. But it'd be like saying Greater London, like all of it, and the Cotswolds. Like it's a big space, right? All the way out there. I mean, because it could be a 2-hour drive from one end to the other. in a little bit of traffic. And so you're literally talking about huge swaths of population who live in very different parts of the neighborhood, being a big neighborhood. And so, we're trying to spread the appeal by bringing the team into town from a practice facility perspective, which we're really excited about.
You talk about spreading the appeal. I mean, Brady, we first met when I was at Chelsea, and we were trying to bring Chelsea women over for a pre-season game. We didn't quite get there, and you had to settle with Barcelona. But just wondering how important that global appeal is to you, and how you're going to look at building a global brand.
That's a great question. Look, I mean, it's a global sport. All sports are global at this point, and we want to be a global franchise. And so for us, look, it starts with, you can't be a global franchise unless you are beloved at home. So we are building our fan base in the Bay Area, and we are working to be considered among the iconic teams in the Bay Area. However, even in our first season, we are asserting that we are kind of in that global football group. We tried to play Chelsea, we did play Barcelona, and we'll do it again next year, maybe on a grander scale. We'd like to take the team on the road. I think that's the beauty of sports. It unites people across the world. I know that's something everyone in here feels and knows, and we are excited to join that group and build the fan base globally.
And Russell, how important is the global brand to 6th Street and the long-term vision of what you saw in working together?
I think when you think about making an investment on the heels of going into business with the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys, and then going into business with Real Madrid and Barcelona, and going into business with San Antonio Spurs, you use all of that context as part of the DNA of who 6th Street are as investors, and say, we aspire to build brands like that in the other investments we make, and to be associated with other brands like that. And so we aspire to the highest level of brand affinity and of fan avidity and fandom as we build this team from scratch. It feels funny to say this, but we're really looking forward to our second season, right? I mean, we're not even done with the first. And so I do believe that having the right aspirations are important for any business, but as investors, we have to aspire to those things in order to deliver the returns that our LPs, are interested in. And we think it all comes together here in this particular investment, in part because of those aspirations. And so I think the global appeal part of it is big. I mean, look, you walk around Vietnam or you walk around Thailand, people wearing New York Yankees hats. You now see your first Bay FC, scarf here in London, and we'd encourage you all to capture it. That orange color you see there, if you flip it over, that is the color of the Golden Gate Bridge, right? And so we really have the Bay in the DNA of the team. And
I failed miserably. I promised that I would turn it over halfway through the session, and I forgot. I'm quite keen to keep us on time. I have strict instructions. So with the final minute, I guess if both of you could just give, not one word, but a few words on, for the people in the room who are either looking for investment or are looking to invest, what is your one tip to look for from both of your perspectives? Brady, starting with looking for investment.
All right, looking for investment, I think have a great business case, have it backed up with data, and have a clear ask.
I've learned a lot in a very short 9 months, but from a 6th Street perspective, it starts off with, where are we going to spend our time as we filter investments? Because time is the limited resource. We can raise more money to, based on the trust we've already built with our LPs and others. People want to be with us, but where are we going to spend our time? Where do we think the themes are most supportable that you can underwrite, as Colin was talking about earlier? And where on the spectrum of the balance sheet are we going to play? Is it going to be a credit style deal? Is it going to be an equity style deal, or some combination of the two? And is there something unique, like there was in this situation, which was startup, women's sports, Bay Area, and feeling really good about where the NWSL was in its arc?
I got one more. And I would highly recommend it to anyone starting your own business. It is super intense and thrilling and humbling, because you have the opportunity to truly leave a legacy. So anyone's considering it, happy to chat, and you should do it.
Thank you to everyone who submitted questions, but if you could also give a round of applause to Russell and Brady.